ambulance call-outs.
A&E at a Surrey hospital this morning.
Hello, how are you?
The challenge, as usual, is finding space for new patients and transferring those who need it to the wards.
We are often coming in the morning with 25 to 35 patients per bed.
They say there are no longer seasonal differences.
There will be a winter and a summer in hospitals, and that's something that we haven't seen for many years. And COVID and the heat wave just make it even worse. I've been at this hospital for 16 years and I've never seen it as busy as it is now.
Ambulance services across England are on the highest state of alert and under extreme pressure, with COVID staff absences a factor.
We are not performing anywhere near where we should be. And I know from my own experience that lives are being put at risk and have been all the way through this period of time.
And how I could have had a fall as bad as it was, I really don't know. There I was, in Yorkshire.
Angela had a serious leg fracture after a fall downstairs at night. Her husband Jamie spent hours repeatedly calling 999.
The frustration of not being told when an ambulance was going to come. That's what got me. Every hour ringing, and they would not tell us when. And no ambulance ever did turn up.
The next morning, a local doctor took Angela to hospital. The South Western Ambulance Service apologised and said it was taking too long to get to patients because of delays at hospitals. So is there anything England's new Patient Safety Commissioner can do about problems across the system?
If concerns are raised to my office or to me directly, then I would ensure that they go to the right part of the system and that people get the response they need. I absolutely can see that there are huge problems at the moment. We are still in unprecedented times.
Hospitals are close to full. It's hard to discharge medically fit patients because of social care problems. A new survey reveals more patients putting off booking GP appointments because it's too difficult. The new realities on the front line. Hugh Pym, BBC News.
5,500 train drivers in England are to go on strike on Saturday, the 30th of July, over pay and conditions. The industrial action by the ASLEF union will affect 8 rail companies, including Great Western, LNER and South Eastern. That's on top of the strike by rail workers announced yesterday for Thursday, the 27th of July. Well, our business correspondent Caroline Davis is with me now. What more can you tell us about this latest strike?
So Sophie, we knew that this strike was likely to come, we just didn't know the date, and now we do. But just to run through all of the dates that are coming up at the end of this month. On the 27th of July, we've got the RMT strike. Now, that will be something that will affect the entire country in a very similar way to the way the walkout happened at the end of June, the end of last month. That impact is probably going to roll on into the next day a little bit, at least into the early morning. Now, a few days later, on the 30th of July, is when we will see this walkout by ASLEF train drivers. Now, that will be across 8 different train operators: London Overground, Chiltern Railways, Greater Anglia, Great Western, Hull Trains, LNER, South Eastern and West Midlands trains. So not the entire country, but still rather large swathes of it, and also going on during the Commonwealth Games. Now, this is not the only area of transport that's had some difficulties today. Of course, earlier in the week, we heard that Heathrow Airport was capping the number of passengers that can depart from it each day to 100,000. That would mean that flights need to be cut. But earlier we heard from the airline Emirates, who have said that they are not going to go ahead with the cuts that Heathrow have asked them to do. Heathrow said that this is a matter of safety and urged people to go ahead and cut those flights. But as you can see, it's already becoming quite a fractious summer for transport.
Caroline Davis, thank you. Well, as more travel disruption looms, we are going to be tracking the experiences of hundreds of holidaymakers. If you want to be one of our travel watchers and tell us your story, do go to bbc.co.uk/travel watchers for more information on how you can help. The Sri Lankan president, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, has formally resigned after days of huge anti-government protests. Demonstrators are celebrating on the streets of Colombo, defying a curfew in place. Mr. Rajapaksa fled to Singapore on Wednesday as protesters took over government buildings. The governor of Sri Lanka's central bank says the country now needs a stable government as soon as possible if it's to stand any chance of tackling its economic crisis. From Colombo, Regina Vaidnathan reports.
Under curfew, streets once packed with protesters, now patrolled by the military. Outside the Prime Minister's office, soldiers back on guard, authorised to use force to maintain order. A day ago, it was different. Security forces were overrun by protesters who stormed the gates and entered. One of a number of government buildings taken over by the masses.
The streets outside the presidential palace are now virtually deserted. It's a contrast from a few days ago when this place had been occupied by protesters. They've now handed it back to the authorities, and while there is a sense of calm here right now, this island's problems are far from over.
Tempers are running high as the basics are in short supply. Only a few weeks of fuel now left in the country. In an exclusive interview, the governor of Sri Lanka's central bank told me that without a stable government, the suffering will continue.
We don't see a way forward and how to provide sufficient foreign exchange to finance essential petroleum for this country. If that doesn't happen, then it will be like whole country will be closed down, no one will be able to do any activity.
The pace of the protests has slowed, the goal achieved. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has now resigned. I met Nuzli as he stormed the Prime Minister's house yesterday. He wants an interim government with new faces to be installed.
We will give the interim government 6 months to maximum of 1 year to settle all this and ease the problems as much as possible. After that, election should happen and people can select who they want to rule the next country next.
Tonight, they're celebrating the exit of the man who last ruled the country. The end of a chapter in a protest movement where people power won. Regina Vaidyanathan, BBC News, Colombo.
The time is very nearly 6:15, our top story this evening. 5 candidates remain in the Conservative Party leadership race after Suella Braverman is not.
Here at St Andrews, it's a time of change in the home of golf. Tiger Woods, he's struggling at the Open.
Coming up in Sports Day on the BBC News Channel, Northern Ireland's Euros journey is nearly over. We look ahead to their final group game against top of the table England. Degrees Celsius, that's the hottest temperature ever recorded in the UK, and that was in Cambridge back in 2019. But that record could be broken next week amid warnings of extreme temperatures, particularly across southern, eastern and central England. And not surprisingly, given this heat wave and lack of rainfall in recent months, there are now warnings that water levels in some reservoirs are at their lowest levels for decades, as Danny Savage now reports from Yorkshire.
Water companies are starting to worry. Across a large part of the UK, it's been dry for months and reservoir levels are falling. This is one of several reservoirs which supplies drinking water to Leeds. Yorkshire Water say back in March they were nearly full. You can see the line on the wall up there as to where the water got to. It's now right down here. They are now asking customers to use water more wisely. In other words, use less or face mandatory restrictions.
Restrictions is one of the tools that we have within our drought management plan. As we head into very high temperatures, we'll be doing very targeted communications. They adapt their behaviour and that makes a difference. But of course we can't rule out restrictions later in the year.
Yorkshire Water isn't alone. Customers in other regions are also being asked to take shorter showers and let the lawn turn brown. With potentially record temperatures forecast for next week and no recent rain, an increase in wildfires is expected. This is the Salisbury Plain area today. How bad is it this year?
Yeah, it's really bad. We've had significant periods of dry weather.
Conditions are some of the worst this fire officer has seen.
We're seeing record numbers of fires in the uplands and in our rural landscapes. We've already surpassed our national totals, and we're only just hitting our summer months now. So it's a really concerning time for us as a fire service.
The dry conditions could soon lead to hosepipe bans and other restrictions. More fires are expected. Next week's high temperatures won't help. Danny Savage, BBC News, West Yorkshire.
Russian missiles have struck civilian buildings in central Ukraine, killing at least 23 people, including 3 children, and injuring as many as 50, according to Ukrainian officials. The attack took place in the city of Vinnytsia, far from the front line in the east of the country, where Russian and Ukrainian forces are fighting. Sarah Rainsford is in Vinnytsia, and you may find some details in her report, Distressing.
A sunny morning suddenly turned pitch black. A man filmed this right after the Russian missiles hit Vinnytsia. It is the very heart of this city. They killed workers, women, children. There was an air raid siren, but this is central Ukraine, far from the fighting, so people ignored it. But the blast was huge. A giant department store and an office block were destroyed. But it seems the Russians' target was opposite. This place is called Officers' House, but it's a concert hall. We saw no sign of any military here.
It was scary. People came running this way, covered in shrapnel injuries. So I ran in the other direction, because it was frightening.
This is right in the heart of Vinnytsia, and now this whole square is a disaster scene. There are dozens of rescuers here working through the debris, the wreckage of this missile strike. This was a building of offices, there were shops at the bottom, and they're all completely destroyed. There's a social club just next door, a concert venue, again, a civilian building, and it is also gutted. There's a huge hole blasted through the building. There have been fireworkers there dousing the flames even hours after the strike. Russia, of course, always says it fires precision missiles and it's hitting military targets. But this was shops. These were people, civilians, just out walking in the park in the square here. It's another reminder that this war is costing lives every single day. Civilians who are being killed a long way from any front lines.
Sarah Rainsford there. Well, thousands of civilians have been killed and millions of Ukrainians have fled their homes since Russia invaded Ukraine. But the devastating consequences of the war have extended to Russian families too. The BBC's Russia editor, Steve Rosenberg, has spoken to the mother of one Russian soldier who went missing in Ukraine.
Russia's invasion has brought untold pain to Ukraine. But if you travel across Russia, you'll discover that here too there are families that are suffering the consequences. This mother has asked us to hide her identity. Valia, not her real name, fears she may get into trouble for speaking out. But she wants to tell us about her son, a Russian soldier who is fighting in Ukraine. Valia last heard from him more than 4.5 months ago.
I don't believe the government anymore. I wrote to his unit, I wrote to the military district office, I wrote to the defence ministry, and I wrote to them all again. No one has given me the basic information, where, when and how my son disappeared.
In official letters, Valia was told that her son had been taking part in a special military operation and that he's missing.
On TV they say that everything's fine, we're winning. But our lads are being killed. If our country had been attacked like this, we would also be defending ourselves like they are. We'd defend ourselves and we'd be angry too. I realise now that Ukrainian mothers are the same as us. Their sons are being killed, they're searching for their children. I don't know what this was all for. You'd have to ask the government.
Ask President Putin, and he'll tell you he ordered troops into Ukraine to defend the motherland. He wants Russians to rally around the flag. But Valia is in touch with soldiers' mothers across Russia, and she says that many of the mothers blame the Kremlin for what is happening.
They hate the government, they hate Putin, they all want this war to end. If the mothers of all the soldiers who are fighting there and the ones who've lost sons, if they all rose up, can you imagine how big that army would be? And they will. Their nerves will snap. Stop. Stop all this. Stop it and protect our children.
Since she spoke to us, Valia has received confirmation that her son is dead. One more Russian soldier who won't be coming home. Steve Rosenberg, BBC News, Russia.
Now a look at some other stories making the news today. The actor Kevin Spacey has pleaded not guilty to sexual assault charges dating back 17 years. The 5 allegations relate to 3 men who are now in their 30s and 40s. The 62-year-old was granted unconditional bail after appearing at the Old Bailey, where he's due to stand trial in June next year. The Environment Agency says that water companies should face jail sentences and tougher fines for the worst cases of pollution. An annual report has found there were 62 serious pollution incidents in 2021, the highest total in 8 years. 2 companies, Southern and Southwest Water, were given the bottom performance rating in the agency's 4-star system. The boss of the energy giant Shell has warned that rationing of energy in Europe cannot be ruled out because of worries over the supply of gas from Russia. He said a really tough winter in Europe was ahead, with energy prices set to see significant rises. Energy prices jumped earlier this year after Russia invaded Ukraine. Now, the quest for the perfect smile is leading to serious complications for growing numbers of people who are travelling abroad to get cosmetic work done on their teeth. BBC News has learned that hundreds of British dentists are dealing with people who had cut-price crowns put on overseas in procedures that have significant risks. Divya Talwar has the story.
This is one of the latest beauty trends that's taken off on social media. It's all about guessing the perfect smile by filing down most of your natural teeth and gluing a cap or crown on top. It's been dubbed turkey teeth because it's one of the most popular destinations people are travelling to for this look. Tilly is 22 and says she hated her old teeth.
Ever since a young age, I was bullied for the teeth. So I grew up complex against them. I didn't like them. I was called things like Bugs Bunny.
So earlier this year, Tilly travelled to Turkey for 16 new crowns.
I'm smiling a lot more. I'm laughing and not hiding my mouth, which I did constantly.
Our investigation has found that this risky and invasive treatment is often planned entirely over social media, and many dentists in the UK won't touch turkey teeth.
If we have a patient who's not our patient, say they've had work done in Turkey, it is much easier for us to simply not take that patient. If I did 20 crowns on a 21-year-old for the purposes of improving the colour, I would have my licence revoked.
Guessing this look can come with major risks like painful infections and tooth extractions. Turkey teeth don't last forever. Lisa says she had no idea they'd need replacing when she had her teeth done over a decade ago. She had to go back last year to have 26 new crowns.
I thought once they put the teeth into your mouth, that was it. They never said, you know, that your teeth can die, that you can get up. They never said anything.
Lisa's had major complications, including infections and chronic pain.
Do you know the way I've just been living, crying?
If she'd known about these risks, she'd never would have got the treatment done. While many people will continue travelling abroad for that Instagram-worthy smile, the advice is to do your research, because once you've got these teeth, there's no going back. Divya Talwar, BBC News.
Well, there is much more on that in the BBC documentary, and it is called Turkey Teeth, Bargain Smile or Big Mistake. You can see it on BBC iPlayer now or on the BBC News channel this Saturday. Now, experts at the National Galleries of Scotland say they're thrilled to have found a previously unknown self-portrait of Vincent van Gogh. It was hidden on the back of another of his paintings, this one dating back to 1885, which is called The Head of a Peasant Woman. And the piece was being x-rayed before an exhibition, and this was found. Covered by layers of glue and cardboard, the Dutch artists often reuse canvases to save money, turning them over and then working on the other side. This is the X-ray image that visitors will be able to see at an upcoming exhibition in Edinburgh. But curators say it may be possible to uncover the real thing eventually, though it will be a very delicate process. Extraordinary. Now, the first day of golf at the 150th Open Championship is drawing to an end. The competition has returned to St Andrews, which is regarded as the home of golf, but it's a time of deep division within the sport, with the new Saudi-backed Live Golf Series recruiting many leading players. Joe Wilson is there for us now. Joe.
290,000 spectators are expected over the 4 days of the 150th Open. At St Andrews, more than anywhere, they follow tradition. Listen to the reaction when England's Ian Poulter came to the first tee. He's one of several players here who are also part of the Saudi-financed Live Golf Series, which is, according to the Open organisers, undermining the sport. Are you aware of those comments, Ian?
Purposely haven't looked at all. So I don't want to know. You can tell me I'm not going to listen.
Rory McIlroy has stood firmly against the new Live Golf. He navigated this old course expertly in his first round to finish 6 under par. Tiger Woods has prioritised playing here again over everything else, but when the dust cleared on the first, he watched his ball bounce into the burn. Water, in other words. Many sympathise.
Well, you know where Tiger Woods is on the course, even when you can't see him, because you can't see him. Look, he's surrounded by a crowd. Everyone's still trying to catch a glimpse of him.
What they saw was the former champion struggling through the opening holes of his round.
No, it's just gone by.
Suddenly, it seemed like a youngster's game. Earlier, another American, Cameron Young, aged 25, walked off the 18th, 8 under par. Get your round done and let the others try to catch you. It's what Tiger would do. A strong mention for Barclay Brown of Sheffield, who's playing here as an amateur and finished his first round at 4 under par. Tiger Woods, after 10 holes, Sophie, was 4 over par. Now he has time, not much, but still some.
Joe Wilson, thank you. Let's have a look at the weather. Sarah Keith Lucas is here, and those temperatures are just going to get very hot.
They are indeed, yes, some intense heat on the way. So if you're not everybody a fan, of course, of temperatures quite this high. But out there today, actually, we've had a little bit of a lull, a slightly cooler, fresher feeling day. Still lots of sunshine. This is the picture off the coast of East Yorkshire. But those exceptionally high temperatures are on the way. Where are they coming from? It's already been really, really hot across Portugal and Spain. Temperatures there in the mid-40s. It's not going to get quite that hot here, but those temperatures well above average are drifting across France and widely across the UK, particularly by the time we get to Sunday and into Tuesday. So for that period, the Met Office have issued an amber extreme heat warning that covers much of England and Wales, but it's going to be hot right across the board, particularly in that morning area. We could see impacts such as widespread health problems and transport disruptions. So plan ahead. By Monday and Tuesday, you may have to change your daily routine due to the heat. Now for the here and now, for the rest of this evening and tonight, we've got a bit of rain for Northern Ireland and Scotland, clear further south, but temperatures somewhere between about 10 to 14 degrees, so relatively comfortable for sleeping at this stage. Now through the day tomorrow, we have got a bit of rain that's clearing out of Scotland, pressing through parts of northern England, North Wales, into the Midlands as well, dry towards the south of that. Temperatures tomorrow, we're looking at mid, possibly the high 20s down towards the southeast, but further north, the high teens or low 20s. Now moving through into the weekend then, and we've got a bit of rain in the far northwest of Scotland, but dry with that strong sunshine elsewhere, and temperatures up into the high 20s for many of us on the Saturday. By the time we get to Sunday, the heat becomes more widespread across the UK and temperatures in the mid-30s. The peak, though, of the heat wave is going to be Monday and Tuesday, where we could be seeing temperatures close to 40 degrees. So I think, Sophie, really, we could see quite severe weather over the next few days.
Incredible to see temperatures like that being forecast here. Thank you very much, Sarah. And that is it from the BBC News at 6. Hugh Edwards will be here with all the latest at 10. But now on BBC One, it is time to join our colleagues across the nations and regions for the news where you are. Goodbye.
Hello and welcome to Sports Day. I'm Lizzie Greenwich Hughes. Here's a sneaky peek of some of today's lineup for you.
are live at the home of golf, St Andrews, where the 150th Open Championship is underway, and Rory McIlroy is among the early front runners. Tom Pidcock, in his first Tour de France, becomes the first Briton to win a stage at this year's race. Out but not down, Northern Ireland hope to end their Euros journey with a good performance against England. And on the eve of the World Athletics Championships, we'll hear from Britain's new team captain from their training camp in Oregon. Also coming up on the programme.
There are people who look like me, and then there are people who look like you. And we may look different, but within this sport, we're all the same in what we do.
Target change, one woman's poem hoping to make a difference in the world of shooting. So welcome to Sports Day, but we are not hanging around here for long because the 150th Open Championship started today. Most players have finished their rounds, so let's go live now to the home of golf where our reporter Ben Croucher is following the action. Ben, I usually avoid saying however many championships there have been. I kind of hate that sort of phrase, 150th, but in this case it just shows, doesn't it, how old, frankly, and how prestigious the Open is, and particularly the Open at St Andrews. This is the one they all want to win, isn't it?
Absolutely. In the build-up to this, Lizzie, all of the golfers were giddy with excitement that they got the opportunity to play here in such a prestigious tournament, dating back to 1872, first held in Prestwick Golf Club, but then came here the following year. St Andrews, you walk around the town, it is steeped in history throughout the streets and wherever you go, and iconic moments of Open Championship golf through the years. When you think of it, you think of Faldo, of Ballesteros, of Tiger Woods, twice a winner here. Most of the Opens all mean something, but some mean a little bit more, and that's very much what you've got here at St Andrews. And we have had a very stereotypical opening day to the Open Championship because we've had calm conditions followed by windy conditions, we've had players making a name for themselves, and we've had familiar faces lurking just behind them. It was those calm, benign conditions early on this morning that sees Cameron Young out in front. He teed off at 8:25 this morning, the American, making his debut on the PGA Tour this year. 8 under par, a blemish-free round of 64 for him. The early bird very much making plenty of birdies, and then lurking just behind, if that's the young, Rory McIlroy is the older, because he is just 2 shots off the pace after an opening round of 66, 6 under par for him, including a birdie on the very last hole. McIlroy described this prestigious, historic tournament as the holy grail of golf, and he very much would like to get his hands on another claret jug.
Obviously, I can't get ahead of myself. I just have to, keep playing the way I know that I'm playing, and if I can do that, this course does give you a lot of opportunities. So, I gotta birdie the holes you should birdie here. Try to limit your mistakes on the tough holes, and if I can keep doing that for 3 more days, I should have a great chance.
Well, McIlroy knows what it's like to win the claret jug. 21-year-old Barclay Brown doesn't. He's an amateur from Sheffield, taking part in this competition, this tournament, for the very first time. A 4 under par round for him today. He is feeling very much at home here at the home of golf.
Unbelievably nervous at the start, and then kind of once I got through the first couple of holes, it's nice to kind of calm down a little bit and hit some good shots and just get into it. I was down playing for England at Royal St George's last week, which was some good preparation there with obviously some great competition and some good friends and links golf as well. So that's kind of been my last week, and then got up here on Sunday.
Amazing for him, isn't it? Now, let's just talk about the Live Golf. We shouldn't be talking about Live Golf, it's about the Open, but they've been getting a little bit of stick, haven't they, on the course, and not really the done thing, particularly at St Andrews.
No, it was quite surprising because we didn't expect any of that after their practice rounds. But Ian Poulter was booed on the first tee by a handful of spectators and promptly hooked his opening tee shot, not just wide of the first fairway, but wide of the 18th, which runs adjacent to it as well. He has impressed, though, because he shot a 3 under par round of 69. And Lee Westwood is going well, another one of these Live golfers. He's on 4 under par at the moment alongside Dustin Johnson, who's currently out on the course. But many of these live golfers have impressed, as well as the likes of Bryson DeChambeau and Paul Casey. We followed a couple of them on the course earlier. Didn't hear any boos for them. But these live golfers are causing a little bit of controversy. These questions aren't going away. Tiger Woods said that they're turned their back on the tours that have given them all of their riches. And we put some of those comments to the golfers today.
I didn't hear them. I've read little bits, but like most things, probably taken out of context. I respect Tiger as a golfer. He's one of the two best golfers that's ever played the game.
You've walked 18 holes, not one noise. So you lot can write whatever you like about being heckled and booing. You've walked 18 holes. Did you hear one comment?
I couldn't be happier. I mean, I think it's been really good. I can't wait to get to New Jersey and play another event there. Let it go, dude. Let it go. It's 3 times you've asked the same question. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I couldn't be happier.
Oh, ouch, Ben. Let's move on from that and talk about Tiger Woods, who, frankly, as everyone cares about Tiger Woods, really, there, don't we? It looked a bit difficult for him in the bunkers. He looked really uncomfortable. How's he getting on?
Yeah, he's struggling. Ouch is probably a good word to describe Tiger Woods' round so far today, Lizzie. He was 6 over par through his first 7 holes, including a couple of double bogeys. But around the turn, around 9 and 10, he has picked up a couple of birdies. So he's 4 over par at the moment. There are, and I'm not exaggerating, thousands currently lining the far side of the course watching him at the moment. And if they want to see him this weekend, well, Tiger is going to have to pick up a couple more birdies. Play is continuing probably until around about 8, 8:30 this evening. Live text commentary continues on the BBC Sport website, and there are highlights on BBC Two from 9.
Okay, good stuff. Thank you. Enjoy yourself there, Ben. What a lovely gig that is, the Open Golf. Now, some good news for British cycling fans, because Tom Pidcock has won today's 12th stage of the Tour de France. And not far behind him was the 4-time champion Chris Froome, who rolled back the years in the mountains. But no change in the overall lead. Jonas Vingegaard keeps his healthy 2-minute plus advantage. Nick Parrott reports.
Sometimes the Tour de France gives a feeling of deja vu. For the second day in a row, riders had to get over the Col de Galibier. On the descent, a familiar name chasing down the leading group, 4-time winner Chris Froome. He's struggled since a career-threatening crash 3 years ago, but here he was surging to the front alongside fellow Britain and Tour debutant Tom Pidcock. They made their move more than 60 miles from the finish, but were still at the front on the final climb up the legendary Alpe d'Huez. Froome's renaissance was confirmed with a third-place finish, as Pidcock was just too strong. With 6 miles to go, the Olympic mountain bike gold medalist and cyclocross world champion went for it, showing he can beat the best on the road as well. Pidcock recently signed a 5-year contract with Ineos Grenadiers, and by winning the stage by 48 seconds, he's given British cycling fans a vision of the future. Nick Parrott, BBC News.
Let's move on to cricket now. And England are fighting hard at Lords in the second one-day international against India as they look to level the 3-match series. They're trying to avoid another heavy defeat. Joss Butler's side found themselves in deep trouble when Ben Stokes became Yuzvendra Chahal's third victim with the score 102 for 5. Moeen Ali top scored with 47 before he too fell to Chahal, who finished with impressive figures of 4 for 47. David Willey also made a vital contribution down the order with 41, including this 6 off Jasprit Bumrah. But England continued to lose wickets at regular intervals, and they were bowled out for 246 with 1 over of their innings remaining. In reply, though, England have made a really good start, dismissing India's top 4 batters, including David Willey removing danger man Virat Kohli. The latest score then at the moment is 61 for 4. India are at Lords. Now let's check in at the Euros. The final round of group games get underway tomorrow. We'll be live in Southampton in a minute and look ahead to Northern Ireland against England. But first, a quick update on the action going on right now. This is live on BBC Two. Italy are looking to bounce back from their opening game defeat to France. They are playing Iceland at Manchester City's Academy Stadium. As I say, these are live pictures from BBC Two. It was Iceland who took an early lead. Italy cannot qualify for the quarterfinals if they lose this match, and France win, and they have found an equaliser, so 1-1 it is there in Manchester. I'm talking about France-Belgium, which is the later game today. Well, as I say, tomorrow is the final round of group games. England are top of their group with 2 wins from 2. They're playing Northern Ireland, who will win this and therefore can't progress any further in the tournament. The game, as I say, is at St Mary's in Southampton, and reporter Jane Dougal is there. Hello, Jane. This feels a really tough one, Jane, because obviously England want to progress with the wonderful football they've been playing and continue their success, but Northern Ireland, part of the UK, it's been a lovely story that they're at the Euros. You don't want to kind of crush them anymore, really, because it's tough for them because they can't go into the quarters, can they?
Lizzie, there is no room for sentimentality at this level. Yes, clearly England have been playing incredibly well, particularly in their last match, 8-0 win against Norway, which means there's no pressure on them for this match against Northern Ireland. They've already progressed to the quarter-finals. However, a game between two home nations is generally filled with some passion, isn't it? The England manager Sarina Wiegman was asked if she would be resting players for this because they've already qualified, and she said, no, not really. She did hint that she would start with a similar team. She said that she didn't particularly like the idea of her players having 9 days between the Norway match and the quarter-final match, and she said that she quite liked the idea of rhythm. So it sounds like she would at least start with a similar starting 11 to the Norway game, and also showing Northern Ireland, a bit of respect there as well. She said that England don't really want to show any weaknesses at this point either, and also confidence as well. So if they weren't to do well against Northern Ireland, that wouldn't do very well for the confidence of her players. But of course she does have a close eye on that quarter-final match, whether it's against Spain or Denmark. And because of England's track record, both the men and the women, in some knockout stage matches, she was asked if they've been practicing penalties.
I believe that practice preparation helps, than doing nothing. So what we want to do is maybe expect the unexpected, but sometimes you can expect penalties. So we're prepared if that would happen. So what we try to do, everything that could occur during a tournament, we hope we have been talking about it or have practiced it, and that somewhere here we can bring it up and execute what's necessary.
Jane, what now for Northern Ireland? I mean, as I said, we don't want to be patronising. It's been wonderful that they've had this wonderful experience at the Euros, and obviously they're going to grow and everything else. But what now for them? What will they take from this experience?
Well, Lizzie, this has been mainly about pride, the pride of getting here. The majority of the Northern Ireland team are amateurs. They're not professional footballers. So they've been so proud to get to a major tournament for the first time ever for the women's team, and also scoring their first goal as well in a major tournament. That's been a really big boost for them. So to hold their own against England, well, that would be a tall order, but it would also be the icing on the cake for them. And I was speaking to manager Kenny Shields a little earlier. He was asked about how tense the match would be between the two home nations, and he said yes, it would be, but also he said that he believed that while England could go on to win the Euros, and he said that watching them the other night, he certainly believed that they could, he still felt that Northern Ireland would be giving a good account of themselves, and that that's something that they would be setting up to do. They wouldn't be setting up for a draw, that they would be setting up to try to do as well as they could. Now, they have played each other a couple of times recently. One of those times was at St George's Park, and apparently the Northern Ireland players were going up to the England players and asking for their autographs. Kenny wasn't actually that happy about that, maybe showing them a little too much respect. And then the captain, Marissa Callaghan, reminded us that, while they did hold England in high regard, they did want to show themselves, show the world what they could do, show the little country what they could do as well. And she reminded us as well that, this was the first time for her country in a major tournament, and also that the majority of the players were not professional footballers.
We have to relish this challenge. We know that England are one of the top teams in the world, and they're seasoned pros. We have 13 players from an Irish league who are amateurs. We get up in the morning, we go to work, we train in the evening. It's night and day in comparison of what their preparation has been. We have a good mix of young players and experienced players, and as do they. But it's just our kind of journeys have been very different. But we're here, and the preparation has been amazing as always. And we'll go out and we'll do our best.
So yeah, as far as Marissa Callahan is concerned, this has been a successful tournament because they've managed to get here. They've managed to score a goal, and they will go out tomorrow and give a good account of themselves. And as manager Kenny Shields says, fear of failure is failure.
Okay, Jane Dougal there for us at Southampton, thank you. Now the stars of global track and fielder in Oregon in the US for the World Athletics Championships, which start tomorrow. Britain has some strong medal contenders and a new team captain in the shape of sprinter Nathaniel Mitchell-Blake.
Being chased down by Mitchell-Blake, silver for Great Britain.
It's a true honour to be considered or to be voted team captain by my peers and staff. Means a lot to me. Means I have confidence in me coming to this championship. I want to lead by example and hopefully steer us to a successful championship. It means that someone believes in you and you have the ability to do something extraordinary. And we're all the best athletes in the nation competing for our nation against the best in the world, which is a beautiful place to be in. We asked to be here, we trained for it, now it's time to deliver. I feel that as long as I'm in this sport, I always have unfinished business. Individually, I have my goals at hand, and collectively as a relay, as a quartet, we believe that we're the best in the world. And there's no better stage to show it than the World Championships. It's been 3-4 years since I've been in the individual final, so I got back in the final, and then obviously the relay, be part of a quartet that brings home gold. We fear nobody, I fear nobody. Fear just turned into adrenaline and we're excited to go out there and compete. From a captain's perspective, I'm excited for the individuals who may not necessarily foresee themselves getting to a final immediately and surprise themselves. This is a championship, no one's going to raise their game. We have some outliers and some medals in a couple of athletes' heads, but I feel that as we're here, it's a championship, it's a clean slate, an opportunity for all of us to go out there and surprise ourselves and do our nation proud. I feel that we can learn a lot from it, and just goes to show that given an opportunity, what can happen to an individual's life. He's now Sir Mohammed Farah, not to be taken for granted. He's one of the best athletes we've ever produced in the country. And how he came here is eye-opening, but it just goes to show that, you know, with hard work and an opportunity means preparation, that anything is possible.
Now, it is a crunch weekend for the home nations rugby union sides, with all 4 nations playing in series deciding test matches. Let's have a quick look then at some of the latest headlines from the touring camps today. Ollie Chesham will make his first stop for England as they take on Australia in Sydney. He replaces Mauro Toje, who has concussion. Chesham will be joined in the pack by Lewis Ludlam in place of Sam Underhill, while scrum half Dan Kerr returns to the starting lineup. Wales' captain Dan Biggar has been passed fit to start the 3rd and final test against the Springboks in Cape Town, along with prop Dylan Lewis. Head coach Wayne Peaback has made just one change, with Josh Adams replacing the injured Alex Cuthbert. Ireland also just made one change from the side that beat the All Blacks in Dunedin, with Bundy Aki starting in place of the injured Gary Ringrose. Aki was started inside centre as Ireland looked to clinch their first series win in New Zealand. And Scotland head coach Gregor Townsend has made 8 changes to the side that beat Argentina 29-6 in Salta last Saturday. Ollie Smith will make his debut at fullback, while Hamish Watson is named as captain in the absence of the injured Grant Gilchrist. Now, the sport of target shooting is often perceived as being associated with a certain old-school demographic, perhaps lacking diversity. But one woman is hoping to show the world that is not the case, and that the sport is keen to be more inclusive. Welcome, Ruth Wandumba, the 2-time English champion and, importantly, the first black woman to represent England. Ruth, thank you for joining us here on Sports Day. We're going to have a proper chat in a minute, if that's okay. But first of all, I just want to play some of the poem that you've written as part of British Shooting's new initiative, Target Change. Let's have a look at this.
When you hear the word shooting, what image comes to your head? I've heard, oh, it's just an elitist game where people wear tweed, or for some, it's a word they dread. But when I hear the word shooting, no history is missed. The uniqueness, an Olympic sport since 1896. From the top of the nation to the bottom, I want people to be able to say that a Scouser from Waterloo, she helped pave the way. alongside this person and that person, they really did open the doors to this beautiful sport that's not only ours, but could be yours.
Ruth, we only saw a little snippet of that, but it was really lovely, and it really struck me, particularly at the beginning when you just said, you know, what do you think of when you think of shooting? Why did you write the poem, and kind of what are you hoping to achieve, really?
Yeah, so I've always been a person that kind of expresses my thoughts and my feelings through creative writing, and I spoke to British Shooting, and we collaborated with the Women's Sports Alliance and E-League to create this new initiative called Target Change, and it's designed to change people's perceptions of target shooting as a whole, and also shape British Shooting's vision, which is to become a more inclusive and diverse sport. So I wanted people to know about my journey throughout the sport and how I got to where I am. But that aside, I also wanted it to be an educational and informative piece. So not only do I speak about myself, but I talk about the history behind shooting as an Olympic sport, and also the percentage of underrepresented groups within the sport too. So hopefully it draws a whole new audience into the sport. That's what the goal is.
And you've already done it. You've already broken the mold. So how did you get to where you are in shooting?
Yeah, so I was in the Army Cadets at school, which is where I first discovered shooting. But I didn't really get competitive until quite a few years later. But I knew from quite early on that it was something that I wanted to do. And as soon as I tried it that first time, I knew that I wanted to try my hardest to go far. And I don't think I quite expected my progression to be as quick as it was. But it was a lot of hard work and determination, so I'm just glad that it kind of paid off and it got to where I am now.
Why do you like it? You know, what are you saying to young kids that you're trying to inspire to get into the sport? What would you say to them makes shooting a good thing to do?
I think it's just so different from every other sport that you try, and you know that was a big thing for me because growing up I was not a sporty person at all, and so you know all of a sudden I found this sport which was mine, and I was great at it, and I was like, you know, this is something I never even used in the Olympics. And as soon as I discovered all of these facts about it, it just became this new amazing thing for me. And that feeling, I wanted other people to be able to feel that as well. So that also ties into this new initiative is, you know, giving other people a chance to feel the way that I felt when I first started the sport.
So what next for you, Ruth? You're already an English two-time champion. The Olympics are in 2 years. What are your chances of getting to Paris?
Yeah, so you know, I've always said that the Olympics are my goal, and so I'm going to work my hardest to get there. And whether it's Paris, whether it's LA, I'm just going to keep on working, and hopefully my performance kind of, you know, does the talking for me. But at the moment, I'm honestly just enjoying the journey. Every competition that I compete at, whether it's domestically or internationally, you know, it's just I treat every opportunity as a gift. So I'm just glad that I can continue to do what I do.
Well, good luck, Ruth. You're a real inspiration. Good luck with Target Change, and good luck for Paris 2024. Ruth Wandumba there for us. Thank you. Now we've got a really interesting final story for you about cricket whites, or not, as the case may be. Whites have been the traditional kit, of course, for cricketers since the sport was invented, but wearing whites isn't great for girls who can be put off playing during their periods. So Lewis CC in Sussex has swapped to an all-black kit this season to make sure there are no barriers to participation. Juliet Parkin has the story.
Girls and boys playing side by side in mixed teams and wearing the same. Coloured kit is something they brought in initially here just for the girls, then across the board for all 7 junior teams and senior women. One kit, one club, where everyone feels comfortable to play.
Lots of people that I know wanted to play cricket, but they were very self-conscious about the white shirts and white trousers. Because as you grow up, you do get your period, and if it happens to happen whilst you're wearing whites, it might be a bit embarrassing.
Lewis Priory Cricket Club has around 300 members and has a history dating back over 200 years. A history, as with so many other village cricket clubs, that has been dominated by men in white.
Okay.
But a more gender-balanced membership is driving change, and this club wants everyone to embrace it.
Really good to get men talking about some of the issues, particularly as 40% of our membership are women and girls. So getting people to understand a little bit about the logic behind that change. And when we did that, very little resistance at all, if I'm honest, virtually none.
Dress code is being discussed more than ever this summer when it comes to monthly bleeding. One former Olympic tennis champion spoke out on social media about the mental stress of having to wear all white at Wimbledon and praying not to have your period. A worry endorsed by Britain's Heather Watson. England's Lionesses have also raised concerns about the wearing of white shorts. Women and girls playing at Lewis Priory say a lot of that anxiety has now been taken away.
Particularly for sort of the young girls coming up through in terms of adolescence and starting puberty and that sort of thing, just takes away any anxiety, being able to play at any time of the month really.
Boys here have equally welcomed the change.
For girls, it makes them feel, it will make them like more encouraged to join, and hopefully it will bring more girls to cricket because we're a bit short, and it's such a lovely game to play.
It's hoped that girls playing here will be encouraged to stay on to senior level. Looks don't matter, they say in sport, but at certain times of the month, they really do. Juliet Parkin, BBC News, Lewis.
That's such a simple but brilliant idea. I love that. And I'm just going to give you an update on the international cricket before we go, because England have to really turn things around. Now, remember, only a few days ago, they had one of the worst defeats ever in a one-day international to India. Here they are in the second. They're 76 for 5, they have India, which means that England are very much on target to win this and level the series. You can find out exactly what's going on the BBC Sport website, as well, of course, all the action from St Andrews with the golf. But that's it from me. I hope you've enjoyed it. As always, as I say, there's much more on the BBC Sport website, bbc.com, bbc.co.uk/sport. But from me and the team here at Sports Days, goodbye. Hello. The heat hasn't been so intense during today. We've changed our wind direction. It's freshened up, but we do have showers around this evening to fade away, and more rain actually is moving in across Northern Ireland and Scotland this evening and overnight. So holding our temperatures a little higher here, whilst in the south, because we've lost that humidity. Again, a much more comfortable night for sleeping and a fine start today. That's a little bit of mist, but plenty of sunshine. Our rain does tend to travel east southwards, but petering out as it does so. Brighter skies follow on behind, so just introducing rather more cloud. The breeze from the northwest, but again it's in the south where we see the highest temperatures, and it's from the south where we're going to build the heat as we go through the weekend. Those winds changing to the south, pumping that heat right the way across the UK. Temperature records could well be broken across all of the home nations, and we could break the temperature record. It is going to be extremely hot, hence the amber warning for extreme heat from the Met Office. As ever, more online.
The greatest movie ever made, as many claim, is 50 years old. Oscar-winning Robert Duvall describes working with Drakes Brando and Pacino in the Francis Ford Coppola classic. Join me, Tom Brooke, as we celebrate and reassess in the Talking Movies Godfather Anniversary Special. Watch on BBC iPlayer.
Hello, I'm Nuala McGovern. This is Outside Source. After days of massive protests, Sri Lanka's president resigns. There's jubilation in the capital, Colombo. President Rajapaksa sent his resignation letter from Singapore after fleeing the country. More resignation drama, this time in Italy. Prime Minister Mario Draghi offers his resignation after losing political support. The country's president says he should stay on. And in the UK, 5 candidates remain in the race to become the next Prime Minister. Rishi Sunak and also Penny Mordaunt are still out in front. Welcome to the programme. The Sri Lankan president, Gotabaya Rajapaksa, has formally resigned after days of huge anti-government protests. He sent his resignation letter from Singapore, where he fled to on Wednesday as protesters took over government buildings. Now, demonstrators are celebrating on the streets of Colombo, thus defying a curfew that's in place. The governor of Sri Lanka's central bank says the country now needs a stable government as soon as possible if it is to stand any chance of tackling its economic crisis. We begin our coverage with this report from Rajini Vaidyanathan in Colombo.
Under curfew, streets once packed with protesters, now patrolled by the military. Outside the Prime Minister's office, soldiers back on guard, authorised to use force to maintain order. A day ago, it was different. Security forces were overrun by protesters who stormed the gates and entered. One of a number of government buildings taken over by the masses.
The streets outside the presidential palace are now virtually deserted. It's a contrast from a few days ago when this place had been occupied by protesters. They've now handed it back to the authorities, and while there is a sense of calm here right now, this island's problems are far from over.
Tempers are running high as the basics are in short supply. Only a few weeks of fuel now left in the country. In an exclusive interview, the governor of Sri Lanka's central bank told me that without a stable government, the suffering will continue.
We don't see a way forward and how to provide sufficient foreign exchange to finance essential petroleum for this country. If that doesn't happen, then it will be like whole country will be closed down, no one will be able to do any activity.
The pace of the protests has slowed, the goal achieved. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has now resigned. I met Nuzli as he stormed the Prime Minister's house yesterday. He wants an interim government with new faces to be installed.
We will give the interim government 6 months to maximum of 1 year to settle all this and ease the problems as much as possible. After that, election should happen and people can select who they want to rule the next country next.
Tonight, they're celebrating the exit of the man who last ruled the country. The end of a chapter in a protest movement where people power won. Rajini Vaidyanathan, BBC News, Colombo.
Thanks to Rajini. Well, we spoke to the protester, filmmaker and director King Rapland shortly after getting the news confirming President Rajapaksa's resignation. Here's his reaction.
It brings me mixed emotions. On one hand, I'm very happy that people in Sri Lanka for the first time have realized that they can, in fact, make a difference, and democracy can prevail. We've been involved in this protest for the last 3 to 4 months in a peaceful protest. Avoiding all opportunities of I wouldn't say opportunities, avoiding violence and keeping it peaceful. And I think people of Sri Lanka have finally realized that it is possible to actually win democratically, and this is a big victory. On the other hand, I am saddened that this had to come to this level, and our leaders had to bring us here and stall this process so much. Even though people are in urgent need of of change and directional change in every sense, economically, politically, and so on. But still, they managed to stall this, and they are still stalling it. Yes, Gotabaya Rajapaksa has resigned, but we do have more hurdles to cross before we get to where we want to get.
Well, let me show you again these extraordinary images of Sri Lankans taking over key government buildings, including this, the presidential palace. Protesters have now left voluntarily, and the army is back in control of those buildings. And the BBC's Ambarasa Netharaj was given access to the presidential palace after it was cleared.
You see, the security forces are now fully in charge, and I was speaking with one of the senior officers, and he told me that this morning they came inside and they didn't find anyone. Now they are fully in charge of this entire compound, not allowing anyone to come into the building at the moment.
Well, as we've heard, President Rajapaksa fled Sri Lanka on Wednesday. That was after protesters began taking over those government buildings in the capital. He is now in Singapore after initially going to the Maldives. He is
Aye. Fid.
What's for supper?
And again, I was sleeping on the sofa till you just fucking woke me up.
Oh, wait, is no one cooked supper yet?
And I hadn't fuck all yet.
Do you want me just to buy...
Jackie, you went to McDonald's not long ago, didn't you?
No. We didn't get one.
Why not?
We'll just dropped off there. I'll pop there. Do you want me to pick up some stuff? Like, do you want me to... Because we don't want to try and pick up food prices, so I've got like 15 trade. Do you want me to take it? Like, I'm not sure.
Mum, Jack's asking.
Yeah, that's nasty.
There's rice. What else is there?